They call gold and silver God's money. So if you're thinking of buying precious metals or switching your 401k to gold without a penalty, head on over to thegoldshow.com now. The link is in the description below.
Hello and welcome. Today we've got Adam Shardlow and James Mason, and we are going to be discussing inflation and how our money is under attack and we should be acting now. Now, just before we begin, you can subscribe to our Telegram channels and to nicholasveniamin.com for my free email updates. And if you're watching this for the first time on YouTube, I will leave the link below in the description for the full interview due to the insane censorship, as we all know. But Adam Shardlow and James Mason, thank you for joining me. How are you and what have you been up to? We'll go with James Mason first.
Yeah, we've been very busy, Nicholas, very unbelievably busy, but it's not too bad right now. We've caught up, we think, but yeah, it's really good. We're not complaining, but yeah, we've at times we get inundated, Adam, don't we? And it's just trying to keep up with it, but it's a good problem to have. So yeah, we've been busy behind the scenes trying to make our life that bit easier, trying to automate the systems of it that little bit. So we've got more time with our customers. We've got more time with them, you know, we can speak to, anyway, so we can speak to them, give them that little bit more time, you know.
Well,
it gets that busy, it gets crazy.
Absolutely. No, that's wonderful. And how about you, Adam?
Yeah, same as James. We're partners in crime and just working hard, trying to help people. And I think part of what we do is the message is kind of evolving, but the same at the same time, if that makes sense. So keeping up to date, making sure people are hearing what's going on loud and clear. But yeah, all good. How are you, Nicholas? Good to see you again.
Oh yeah, no, I'm great. Just interviewing wonderful people, learning so much, listening to different speculations, and also being educated. With a lot of like the things that you're teaching us today about inflation, and I'm really interested to get into it. So where do we begin?
Well, I think
we have to mention first, Nicholas, as we always do, regarding the disclaimer, we're not financial advisors. We don't ever want to be financial advisors, to tell you the truth. We don't believe in financial advice. We only believe in financial education, financial awareness. We share information with people. We show them what we do to help ourselves and our own families and our customers, and then they can take it or leave it. But we have to be very clear on that. We're not financial advisors.
Absolutely. And okay, guys, so listen, we understand that inflation is a big, important thing that we need to be aware of. And the Democrats love printing money. When they do that, inflation goes up, things become expensive, gold becomes expensive because we need more of those pounds to make up for the amount of value of gold, for that value. And the thing is, the more they print, we know that the more devalued the dollar becomes. So, and people need to be aware of this because we know gold is very sustainable, and people who have been investing in gold and silver make a really, they sustain that value of their money. I'm going to let you guys do a presentation, Adam. You go for it. I know you want to share your screen. Yeah. And I'm just going to let you take the mic, explain to the viewers exactly what it is that you want to share today. And then we'll go ahead and answer some questions.
Perfect. Great. So can you see my screen here? You can see the dollar slowly disappearing.
There we go.
I think you've summarized it pretty well, Nicholas, actually, of what we're talking about. We just want to put some meat on the bones of that idea that affects everyone, whether they realize it or not. And I think for those of you that maybe you might have heard of inflation on the news, you might have never heard it before. Welcome to the world of inflation. It's a bit of a strange old concept and a strange idea. So just on a really basic fundamental level, inflation is just paper money. Doesn't matter whether it's dollars, euros, pounds, yen. It's all the same. It's just paper. that as more of it is created, it loses value. And the way you can think about it in a literal sense is, for every pound or dollar that comes out of the printing press, as it were, it's worth less than the one before it. And we've seen a really interesting time, and I say interesting in quite a worrying way, of ridiculous amounts of money being created out of thin air. And that has to have an impact. It has to. And this is where inflation comes in. We actually forecast this happening a good while ago and just said, look, what governments and countries are doing is, one, not sustainable, and two, has to have a knock-on effect. And it has a knock-on effect to our pockets, our hard-earned money. This stuff that you trade your time and your life for is losing value, whether you realize it or not. So that's where we want to start looking at inflation. And we want to look at some information of how much money has actually been printed. And it's really difficult to get your head around these numbers, because they're not numbers that we deal with on a day-to-day basis. Well, we definitely don't. And I don't know about you, Nicholas, millions and billions and trillions and all this kind of stuff, but it's so intangible. I think as long as you grasp the idea that the amount that the amount that's been printed is unprecedented. We've heard that word so many times. Unprecedented actions lead to unprecedented results. And governments and countries will tell you that they'll print unprecedented amounts of money, paper money, and really downplay the knock-on effects of that. It can't happen by the nature of what they're doing. So let's jump into it and show you exactly what's happening. So first of all, we've got the US money supply, and we're going to look at a few different areas of the world. I want you to just take a bit of a mental note of the how that graph looks. If graphs kind of turn you off, please just look at it as a picture of kind of blue bars and look at where it's going, and that it's had a big jump and it's continued to accelerate. That's the US money supply. Now, please watch the screen really carefully, because I'm going to flick to the next slide and it will look pretty much the same.
Okay.
That's the UK money supply. Do you notice a pattern by any chance? Around COVID, money was just printed. It's very easy for governments and countries to print money. And relating this to precious metals, which we'll talk about it a little bit later on, people say to us quite a lot, they ask us about, will governments ever take metals from individuals? Will they ever say, look, you need to, as it happened years ago in the States, will they ever take money from us, gold from us? And I think, well, look at this picture. It's far too easy for them to print money out of nowhere than come round and collect metals from me and you knocking on our doors. So I think the context of how that happened is very important. I might be wrong. This is just my opinion, but I think, look at this. I mean, how many people's doors were knocked on for this money to be created? None. It was created out of thin air. Again, watch the screens very closely. That was the UK money supply. That's the EU money supply. And these are big areas of the world, big economies, big countries. They're all the same. And the numbers along the side are huge numbers. We're not talking about small increases, we're talking about huge increases of money. Again, watch your screens. Australian money supply, shock horror, all the same, all up and to the right. And that means that the more that's in supply devalues what is already around. So yours and mine, hard-earned money that we've saved. I'm not talking about money that you have to use for kind of bills and day-to-day transactions, because that's kind of coming and going and it doesn't stay with you that long. We're talking more about money that you are saving and just sat there. It's eroding away. It's actually losing value as they're printing unprecedented amounts. Does that make sense, Nicholas?
It really does. And I've got some questions, general ones.
Yeah, go ahead.
We can ask them at the end. And I'm just wondering, when you're ready, basically, when you've done your presentation, which is, I'm really enjoying it because you're showing different countries, and that's very important.
Yeah, I think something that's interesting about looking at different countries and areas and currencies is that because all of these really big parts of the world and currencies have created all of this money from nowhere, and because they've done it to some equal amount, you don't see the devaluation of one versus the other. So, for example, if the US dollar was printed into oblivion and the British pound wasn't, then you would see that difference. But because both have been printed and created at some relative similar levels,
The global level, isn't it?
Yeah, you don't
see
see that disparity between them. Which
we actually went through 200 countries, Adam, didn't we? A few months ago, we actually went through it was over 200 countries, wasn't it? We looked at all the printing of each country, the printing, the amount that was being printed, and it's just, it's global. There's very few countries that weren't doing the same thing.
I think there was only 2 or 3 countries that didn't increase the money supply. So it's hard to get a relative feel for what's going on because it's all kind of happening together, which, it's difficult. I think if this is not something that you're naturally drawn to or you're aware of, it's difficult to see what's actually going on, which is, we think probably for a reason. It's probably, that for a reason.
I think for normal people, just to explain it a different way, average day people is the money that you have saved in a bank is just dropping in value. Every single day you have it held in a bank in currency, you can buy less with it, less and less and less and less. And we'll show you the numbers later, show you some numbers to prove that.
I 100% agree. I think that we should only have money in our accounts enough to pay for food and pay for bills. But when you've got money that you want to put aside for a holiday, or you want to just save up in general, that small increments of our income every month, of the money that we want to save and put away, should be put into gold always. It's much more reliable. You make much more of a bigger return. The profit margin that you make on that is much more than what the bank pays in respect to interest, where it should be about 11, 12%, but it's not. It's under 1%. It's a scam. And then when we want our money, the banks don't even want to give it to us. They want to know proof. They want to have proof. They want to ask so many questions. There is no freedom. The banks are corrupt, absolutely. So this is the way forward. So, okay, guys, I want to let you guys finish.
Yeah. So totally true. And we speak with people every day. So we get to hear from people's real life experiences of how they've been treated by their bank. And in fact, I forgot to tell James this the other day, because we have these accounts so often that you get a little bit numb to it, really. And it's just, we know the banks are controlling people's money. There was a guy that tried to make a transfer from his account. It wasn't the biggest amount. It's still a decent amount, but not huge figures. And the bank didn't like him making that transaction. He had to speak to the fraud squad. And this was the very first time we've heard this, but the police actually were called and turned up at the bank, and he was questioned by the police for wanting to make a transaction from his own account.
Wow,
and
that one.
It's real madness. It really is. So I think from all of this, and this, if you know that the money supply is going to be increasing, you can forecast inflation. It's not that difficult. And when all of this started with the excess money printing from COVID and all this kind of stuff, we knew this was going to happen. It's kind of inevitable. But the narrative that you hear from governments and the media is that they're always dragging their heels and playing down these facts that, well, it's not good. First off, they say there won't be inflation, and you think you're saying these are unprecedented times, and we're having to print unprecedented amounts of money, but you're saying there's going to be no negative effects of that. That is impossible. It just cannot happen. Then when inflation starts to peek its head kind of round the corner, they say, well, yeah, there's going to be a little bit of inflation, but it's going to be transitory. It's not going to stay. It's just for a brief period of time. Again, you can see these graphs here. They are not slowing down. They are actually increasing in their trajectory. How can something that's increasing not have an increasing negative effect? For me, that just doesn't make any sense. And then as you go through, as you'll see more and more, inflation will start to increase. It has to happen. It has to. There's only certain tools that governments and central banks have got to control the money supply and to control the economy, and that is printing more money and interest rates. And to combat inflation, interest rates will have to increase. And there's talk of that happening already. So those are the tools of the central bank. Inflation is clearly here. We'll show you the numbers in a second. And interest rates will be next. Yeah, for sure. Okay.
Fantastic. Okay. Okay. So my question is,
yeah, go ahead.
I'm someone who's not sure about gold. I could be someone just random who doesn't know about gold. I don't know too much about inflation, but I'm interested. I'm awake and I'm interested in making an investment for myself, for my family, for the future.
Yeah.
You know, how is it you can help? What is it you guys do?
Yeah, well, we help educate people and show them what we personally do and have done for ourselves and our families for the last 6.5 years. We saw a lot of this stuff happening. We knew that paper money, I guess, to put it in a kind of succinct way, that cash is trash, and that saving paper money doesn't benefit you in the long run. It just doesn't. It's very easy to see that. So we actually help people go through the process of buying metals and learn things that we had to learn the hard way. You do have to learn from mistakes, but not your own mistakes. Let's put it that way. You can learn how we do it, and more importantly, why we do it that way. That's really important. We encourage everyone to do their own research as well. But there's a lot you can glean from people that are already doing and have done it for a decent amount of time. So that's how we help people on a real practical level, if they want to take action, which I hope people can see from this information that something has to be done. If you don't want to feel pain and suffer from this inflation and your hard-earned money losing value, then you have to do something. Please do something.
Well, I agree, and I'll tell you why I agree. And you say you've learned the hard way. That's because they don't teach us that in the school systems.
Exactly.
But why? Yeah. This is what really frustrates me.
There's a reason.
Yeah, I wish they would give you just even just a small taste of this kind of information to see what's out there, because at the end of the day, we live on an economic planet, and we have to buy things. We have to, the food to eat, a roof over our heads. People usually want to, have nice things. And the very stuff you are trying to hold is slipping through your fingers if you're saving cash. It's, and I look, me and James say this all the time. We wish this wasn't true. We wish that everything was rosy and people can just carry on doing what they're doing. We really wish that was the case, but it just isn't. And you need to do something different to get a different result. You do.
I personally believe, Nicholas, that this system has been set up this way deliberately to keep us all dumbed down. People aren't supposed to know the system. They aren't supposed to know how it works. Because if they did, they'd all do what we did. Everyone would. And the system and the banking system wouldn't work. It wouldn't operate. And that's why they're trying to stop us now from taking our money out of the banks to do what we're doing. That's why they're doing what they're doing. It's sort of, what's the word? It's confirming what we've been saying for years. What they're doing right now to our customers, trying to stop them buying gold. It's confirming that we were right all along, Adam, weren't we?
Yeah. I think just one another way of putting this as well, just to really hit home how it impacts each individual, is we looked here at the money that's been created, and when money's created, it is just debt. This is not money that's created and doesn't have to be paid back. It's got to be paid back. And this is debt, country debt, And what we did is we worked out the number of the working population within these areas of the world and the amount of debt that country has. And then we divided the amount of debt by the working population just to see what the impact is. What does it actually mean for hardworking people? And these are the results. So in the US, each working individual actually has another $187,000 in debt. That's not their mortgage. That's not personal debt. This is the debt of the country that is kind of sat on their shoulders and future generations as well. A lot of kicking the can down the road and just, we'll work it out another time. In the UK, £68,000 each working individual, just let that settle in. Think about the other debts and things that obligations that you might have in your life. Stick another 68 on top, and also it's very difficult to pay back. In the EU, €64,000 in debt, and Australia, $48,000 in debt. Let's remember, this has to be paid back plus interest. And as money is printed and interest rates are low, it has to be paid back at a low interest rate. But what did we say before? When paper money has been created, to combat that, central banks increase interest rates, which means that the large amount of debt that was borrowed at the low interest rate has to be paid back at the higher interest rate.
It's another pandemic, isn't it?
It really is. And I think the knock-on effect of all of this is it isn't going to go away in a short period of time. I think it's gonna take a while.
It's very much, Nicholas, short-term gain, long-term pain.
It's like the opposite of going to the gym.
Yeah,
when you say no pain, no gain, this is the short-term gain. Yeah, there's this free money and stimulus checks and the furlough scheme, and let's get it all out there. Let's get it to businesses that need it and people that need it. We're not denying that people were in need of help from government restrictions, which is a bit of a probably conversation for another day. But there's going to be a lot of pain down the road. And here's the point that is quite frustrating, is that governments don't have to be accountable really for the promises and the money that they borrow. They do their term, 4 years, 8 years, whatever, and then they move on. And we're left with the consequences. I think what would be really interesting is that if governments and parties made promises, that at the end of their term, they were accountable for the promises that they made, because it just doesn't happen. It's really frustrating.
That's why they get away with it, isn't it? That's why they get away with it, because the systems are so corrupted.
Yeah, that's totally right. So look, let's have a look at what the impact of inflation is having today on households, because it is a real, it's happening now. So look, we're taking a UK household, a 12-month period for a UK household. This is going to be similar for the US, for Australia, for Europe, for other countries. So don't worry if you're thinking, well, I'm not in the UK, this is not impacting me. It will. The numbers might be slightly different, but the theme is the same. As you saw with those graphs at the beginning, they were pretty much identical.
It's affecting everybody, isn't it? Or most people, most countries.
So here's another way of looking at inflation. You can kind of look at it in two ways. One is the devaluation of paper money, your paper money going down in value, or you can look at it as goods and services going up in price. Doesn't really matter which way you look at it. The net result is the same, that your money buys you less at the end of the day. So first of all, in the UK, national insurance has been increased by 1.5%. So not only is your money worth less than it was, you're also getting less of it. So let that sink in. You're getting less of it and it's worth less. From that money that is then worth less and that you are getting less of, fuel's gone up by up to 24% in the last 12 months. Okay? Tell me inflation's not around. Sorry if we're getting a little bit passionate about this, but it's really frustrating to hear governments and countries talk about inflation isn't here and don't worry about it when people's pockets are telling a different story. Foods increased by up to 33% in price. Car prices, to buy a car, 6.6%. House prices in the UK are going pretty crazy at the moment, 13.2% on average in the last 12 months. Rental prices, so it doesn't matter whether you're buying or whether you're renting, it's going up. Energy prices, definitely gone up, and we think set to go up even more in the next 12 months as well. Council tax, another like property tax, another tax basically, which is going up as well. Clothing, another thing, and these things are not luxury items. We're not talking about things that you think, well, that's not something that I would be a cost to me. These are just basic necessities, things that everyday hardworking individuals and families need. And then the really frustrating part is that the UK government have the audacity to tell us that the official inflation rate is 2.9%. I just don't know where they're getting that from, because that's not the reality of hardworking families.
Well, as you and I know, Adam, that numbers can be manipulated and are manipulated, aren't they?
Yeah, they really are.
Yeah.
And the thing is, we're in this situation where when the government or the media says something, people think, it's been done for us. We just assume that that's what it is. Yeah. And we're sovereign beings. We have to take that power back and do our own research. And that's what you guys are doing.
Yeah, and you don't need to look that far. I mean, look at how far your money goes now compared to how far it went before. You don't need to be doing super in-depth research. Look at the cost of fuel. It's quite easy to find, but you've got to go looking in the first place.
Absolutely.
And for us, we just think that it's time to take back control. It's time to take our chips off the table. We've realized that the game is rigged, and we think, look, it's time that we do something for ourselves. And as we've said, you're buying things day to day. Currently, that's the system that we're living in. You need cash. That's the medium of exchange to buy things. But for your hard-earned money that is sat possibly in a bank account, just sat gathering dust and losing value, this is why we turn to gold and silver. Because they over time, they beat inflation. That's what history shows us. And it's just a better store of value than paper money. Paper money is designed to lose value. That was the whole idea in the first place. So saving it just doesn't make much sense. I know that might be hard hitting for some people, but we want to give you tough love, and it's from a good place, and it's stuff that we encourage you to do your own research and see how it's affecting you.
If you're saving in paper currency, you're losing. That's a simple way of explaining it. If you're saving in paper currency, you're losing, and especially if it's in a bank, because you don't own it legally. So and it's legal. It's the legal side of it that matters.
Absolutely. Well, gentlemen, it's been an absolute honor to have you again and to share that with the viewers. Thank you very much. Hyperinflation, and that gold is the real value, not this fiat currency. Well, is there anything else that you'd like to say to the viewers before we finish?
Well, have you got any questions yourself, Nicholas? Anything that comes up?
I think we've covered everything.
No, you think? Yeah.
I think the main key here was the education on inflation and why we should be investing in precious metals, and also the education that you're providing and what you guys are doing to give that to the viewers. I think that's the key here.
We do try and keep it really simple, because you could make it complicated, but people just don't take action. They don't understand it. They don't do anything. So we try and keep it as simple as possible, and it really is that simple. If your life savings are held in paper currency, sat in a bank, you're losing. It really is that simple. So you've got to do something different to what everyone else is doing.
Absolutely.
And it isn't rocket science. And all people have to do is get in touch with us, and we've got a good little process that we work on now, that we put people through. A bit more education for them, and it helps them decide their way, decide their path. And sometimes it helps them realize that it's maybe not for them in their situation right now. So sometimes it's not for them. but they didn't know that until they actually approached us in the first place. So they've got to make that move, Nicholas. They've got to get off that fence and take some action, make the move. And then we can help them decide what's best for them and whether this is best for them or not. But for most people, it is.
Absolutely. And Adam, is there anything that you would like to say to the viewers?
Something I've just said quite a few times is please do some research. Please don't watch what you've seen today and do nothing. Please do something, whatever that is. I really hope that this motivates people to do something, even if it's just look into it themselves. We can give you the information. We can kind of do as much as we can, but it has to be over to you. So yeah, and if there's any way we can help further, then please get in contact with us. And yeah, we'd love to do that journey with you.
What I'll do is I'll leave the link below in the description so that people can educate and find out more. They can ask you questions, and you can do Zoom calls and however you guys wish to do it. But I'm very thankful. Thank you very much. And we'll speak again very soon. And God bless you. Bye-bye.
Hey, take care, Nicholas.
Cheers. Bye.